with the remaining games left on the Spurs schedule, is there anything to look out for?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're in the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope you're having a great day. And it's hump day, everybody. Get over the hump. That's it. The weekend is within sight, but we'll help you get through it right here on Locked On Spurs. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus, at YouTube. You know where to go. Link below. Yeah, there's a lot of links below. Click on that if you're watching on YouTube. In the description, you also find the Locked On Spurs newsletter. Click on that link. Subscribe right now. Completely free. It hits your email inbox every single day. What are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at the last few games. No, not win-loss, but more like what to watch for. I know it's been painful. I understand. I'm still suffering from the Warriors game. Seriously, our guest texted me from there. We'll get to hear what he had to say in just a few minutes. But and I understand it's a rough go. You know, the Spurs, they got a lot of heavy hitters on their schedule, and it doesn't get any easier. But we're going to try to find out figure out, I should say, why you should still be tuning in to the final games of the Spurs season. And then get into some of your comments, Locked On Spurs fan comments. Let's see what y'all are talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Going to bring in our guest. He is Matt Guzman. He is back, everybody. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow him on X at MattGZMAN. Matt, that Warriors game was brutal, wasn't it?
It was. I think I texted you. They're playing Orlando tonight, obviously, and I think so many fans had began to started leaving between third and fourth quarter that the Spurs had put that graphic up saying, "We'll see you next time." It was
Yeah, it was bad. You know, I was like on the fence of going, not because I saw this coming, but frankly, I was just getting lazy. You know, I just got back to the gym. I took a shower. I was on the couch. I was like, oh, forget it. The laziness got me. But I'm glad I didn't go, though. I'm glad I did not go. That would have been rough. And 47-point beatdown. A 47-point beatdown at one point. But you know what, Matt? That is in the past. We got to move forward. And we're going to do that right here and right now. We're going to look ahead, look forward at the final games. And again, like I said, not a win-loss kind of projection, nothing like that. Just what to look out for. And I know it's tough. I know Matt understands. I get it. It's bad. But if there's anything to look forward to, we're going to try to figure out right now. Matt, let's start off with you. You are the guest. What is number one on your list? Why should Spurs fans still tune in to these final games?
You know, I think it's interesting because when you have a team that loses its stars, every game kind of looks a little bit different. You know, there's matchups that maybe you circled at, you know, the All-Star break or you circled after the trade deadline. Like, you know, I want to see how well the Spurs are going to play when this team comes to town. You know, maybe that was the Celtics and the Warriors back when, you know, they traded for De'Aaron and they had still Victor available. And so I think, you know, obviously things are going to look a little bit different. For me, the reason that you tune into these games, if you're a fan of this team, is just to kind of see some of the younger players or some of the players that haven't been getting as many minutes this season get their chances and get their opportunities. You know, you got guys like Blake Wesley in particular, who's played his way into a rotational role, you know, obviously because there's a lot of people missing, but he's been putting in the work all season. That's been recognized by his teammates, by Mitch Johnson. And so, you know, he's kind of earned his way into there. You got guys like Sandro, who I can touch on in a little bit as well. But it's guys like that are now getting a chance to shine that, you know, you can kind of just look to see what their game is like, how they play, and whether or not they might be brought back, you know, next season when everyone is healthy. And so I think that's kind of the primary reason.
Yeah. I just start off with Blake there. You brought him up. Yeah, he's been in a lot of minutes, partially because of the De'Aaron Fox injury. You know, he's done, so let's freed up some minutes for him. He's been taking advantage of those minutes, particularly on the defensive end. You've been there, those conference chats. I've been there where they say, you know, players and coaches are like, yeah, he brings that energy on both ends of the floor. Maybe the numbers don't jump at you after the game, but he is that pest on defense. He will give you some points. He will speed up the pace. He will get guys in transition. So that's good to see. He might be securing a spot for him moving forward. I think he's willing to accept a bench role with San Antonio. And why wouldn't you? You know, hell, Matt would want to roll on the Spurs roster. We got a Wemby and Fox and Castle there. I mean, it's all promising. But you know, no, and this person is not on my list right now, but he just came up because you mentioned Blake Wesley. You know, something to watch for. I guess I'm following your points here. is Malachi Branham. You think we might be seeing the last of him in the Spurs uniform?
I honestly think we might be. I think at the beginning of the season, I had almost thought that Malachi was going to be in Blake's position, where he's the one that's first off the bench or first out of the reserve group of this roster when players are hurt. But he just hasn't really gotten his chance, and that's not really a fault of his own. I think that he's just kind of stuck in this awkward position where they have so many young guards and they have so many different talents. I don't know if there's anything more he can do to kind of prove himself, or if he will get that opportunity. He was in the game against the Warriors when they cleared the bench completely. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to stick around too much longer. It just kind of depends on how the offseason shakes out, who the Spurs kind of want to target and build around.
Yeah, the draft is looming too. If it's best available, and that best available is another guard, and if the Spurs select that player,
right?
Or and that could hit Malachi's minutes again. Yeah, I don't think. I think we might be seeing the last of Malachi in a Spurs uniform. More about Blake Wesley though. I think he's a viable backup guard if Chris Paul, more on him later, decides to call it a day or just leave the Spurs. Do you think he's solidifying himself as a backup point guard in that scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about Blake a couple episodes ago as well. What he's been able to do, like you said, the stats don't exactly jump at you, but it's the intangibles, the stuff that they praise Jeremy Sohan for. Like Wesley brings that energy, especially on defense. You can put him against some of the tougher talents on the other team, the guard, and he'll do as best he can, and he brings that bulldog energy, as I've heard it been called before. And so I think he's definitely solidifying his spot as a backup guard, especially because on offense, especially because of defense. But when you look at the offense as well, he might not be, Rajon Rondo out there, finding assists and finding everybody, but he's not turning the ball over either. He's proving to be a net positive when he's on the court, and I think that's a very important thing.
Absolutely. Now, heading into last night's game versus Orlando, these are some of his numbers in the last 5 games: 4.8 points per game, 1.8 rebounds, 1.4 assists in 21 minutes. Again, they don't leap at you, but you dig deeper and you see other intangibles he does. Minimal turnovers, just 1 a game. Fast break points, he gives you about 2. What else he got here? Rebounding, he gives you a little bit of everything here. He even draws fouls, close to 2. So yeah, so far he gives you a little bit of everything in the Spurs Valley. That moving on, with him, and I think they do like him as a viable backup. Again, if Chris Paul decides to leave the Spurs or retire. So you got Stephon Castle and then Blake Wesley. It should be a good back. I think that if I'm the Spurs, I'm getting him ready to get him used to the idea of him backing up Castle in that scenario. One more thing about Mamu though. Mamu's interesting. I believe, he's making a case to stay, namely because he can spread the floor. But do you think that's going to be enough for him to stick on this roster?
I really hope so, because the signs have been there from the start. The kind of shooter that he can be. When he gets those opportunities, I mean, it obviously was a very big anomaly what he did against the Knicks a couple weeks ago, but that was it wasn't representative of what he can give you every night, but it was representative of what he can do, in the open court. At the same time, Sandro he's been biding his time as well, but he got his chance against the Knicks, and since then he's had several games with double-digit points. He had a double-double against the Warriors. I think that he's a player that knows exactly how he can contribute to a team, doesn't mind a lesser role or a bench role. But he's also part of that locker room. I would say he's an integral part of their energy and the way that they operate. And so I think, he's kind of been showing what he's known about himself all along, and now he's getting a chance to kind of show others about that. I think that, he's definitely making a case to be a part of that roster.
Yeah, and it brings a little splash of Hollywood to San Antonio with Flavor Flav. Like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that. I know. I wish San Antonio did have like kind of a celebrity row. I used to live in New York City for close to 20 years. And I remember going into the press room at the Knicks MSG games, and they literally would have a separate roll call of what celebrities and actors and musicians are in attendance. So I'm like, one day the Spurs will get it outside of just George Strait, or or whoever else is local here. But no,
Charlotte Crockett's been courtside at a few games now, and they keep on the board.
Yeah, so you see little by little, so we got Flavor Flav, we got a country music star. You see little by little, Spurs will build their celebrity row. But no, definitely good points there, Matt. Things to watch out for specifically individually is Blake Wesley and Sandro. And those are two guys that the Spurs, I think, would want to have on next season. But what do I think? What are reasons why you should stick around for these last 8 games? I know it's rough. I know sometimes you want to turn that TV off and say, well, I'm going to play Call of Duty or I'm going to go for a walk or something. But we're going to give you more reasons why you should stick around and watch the final games right here on Locked On Spurs with Matt Guzman. Make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. But first, I want to talk to you about PrizePicks.
Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars with PrizePicks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, PrizePicks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Think Wembanyama is going to drop 30 points? Maybe Devin's going to get more than 8 assists? PrizePicks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. Look, I've been using PrizePicks all season long. It's very addictive. I mean, last week, just pretty much every day, Wemby's going for more than 20 plus points. You got Devin Vassell playing well right now. That's the kind of action I'm talking about. And with PrizePicks Flex Play option, even if one of my picks doesn't hit, I can still double my money. Plus, once I hit, I get my money fast, sometimes as quick as 15 minutes. It's honestly the best way to keep the game exciting. Now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get in on the bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game.
I am Megatron. Do not fail me and subscribe to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Matt Guzman. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. He'll talk to you about all he has cooking on his neck of the woods in just a few minutes. But we're talking about the Spurs' remaining games. We know it's rough. Matt and I, we get it. We know it's tough. And they might pull a win here and there the last 7-8 games. But nevertheless, it's been just a tough going. But we're going to give you reasons why to stick it out to the bitter end. So Matt talked about Wesley and Mamu. I'm going to talk about Devin Vassell. I think that for sure he is, for me, I have a big microscope on him because there's 2 sides of the coin with him. There's he's playing really good. We'll get up his numbers in a bit, and he's actually being consistent. Oh, and it's almost common now for him to get at least 20 or more points. That's good. And it's also good, and man, I would be even more upset if he wasn't putting these numbers up, even though Wemby and Fox were not around. That'd be more concerning. But he's still putting up those numbers. And we'd like that. It's keeping the Spurs somewhat in games, not the Warriors game, but maybe the Boston game. But nevertheless, he's the primary option on offense. He's the de facto go-to guy, and he's living up to that. But at the same time, Matt, I want to get your opinion on this. Isn't it also kind of a bad thing? Because maybe it's showing that he has to be the number 1 or number 2 option to get those numbers. But next season, at full power, he's arguably maybe the 4th option. It's starting to make you think, does he really fit in San Antonio? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a valid concern. It's something that I think everybody's wanted to know the answer to, specifically regarding Vassell. What is his role? Because he was paid like he's an all-star. He was paid like he's that primary number 2 option on the team featuring Victor Wembanyama. And, you mentioned whether or not, he's been able to find his stride only without the stars there. That's honestly been a little bit true. He's definitely looked better when he is that primary option. In March, he's yet to score below double digits.
Yeah.
I think, obviously that's a great thing. There's 2 games that stuck out to me when I look at his game log. When they traded for Fox, he had 2 games, one against Atlanta and the other against Orlando, actually, where he had 20 and 25 points respectively. And those would have been games where Victor, De'Aaron, and Devin Vassell were all playing. I think, they obviously had very little run time together this season because there was only 5 games before Victor got out since they got De'Aaron Fox. And so I think it's one of those things you can't really tell And, maybe we would have seen it turn into a good, solid, 3-man punch whenever, when it goes down to the stretch of the game. But I don't think they got that opportunity on the court. And so I think that's going to be huge this offseason, is to find a way, because they paid him for 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
He's got a lot left in the tank for San Antonio, specifically on this contract. And so I think this offseason is going to be huge in figuring out whether or not he will be able to fit next to those guys.
Yeah, and I'm going to keep an eye on that just to see if maybe he can parlay these last few games, last couple months, into a nice transition to next season, where maybe he might be okay coming off the bench. I think that might be the best fit for him currently on the roster, because then he can be the primary, or at worst case, the secondary option on that second unit. Or maybe he just becomes the primary unit and Keldon becomes the secondary option. His contract is very friendly. It's still flippable. I think it's descending. I think it's how they paid him up front, and then it just descends as the years go by.
Right.
Yeah, there's that. So I think his best fit may be off the bench, but I would hope he would be okay with that role. What do you think? Do you think maybe a bench role is better suited for him than maybe a starter role?
It's interesting because we haven't really seen much of him in a bench role. But then again, the idea of Keldon coming off the bench was kind of foreign until it. And so, I could definitely see the way that Keldon did end up flourishing and is flourishing off the bench still. I think that that's something Devin Vassell could adjust to. And knowing the way the Spurs are as a team, I don't think he would mind that too much.
Yeah.
But it definitely all depends just on if the Spurs are going to bring somebody else in the offseason, who they draft. I don't think there might not be a prospect besides Cooper Flagg that's really going to displace Devin Vassell directly. But it's something to watch for, something that he is going to have to monitor, and the team is probably going to take a look at this offseason.
There's only one outside of Flagg. The only other prospect that could displace Vassell is Matt Guzman. Yeah, who goes to Missouri, out of Missouri.
I was waiting for a real name.
Matt Guzman, you're about the only one who can really tell you or give it a minute. Yeah, that's true. But you got a mean 3-point shot, though, by the way. Pretty good.
Me?
Yeah, you.
We'll have to play basketball. I'll have to show you. Because,
Oh, no, you're too young for me, man. You just run circles all over me. I'd have to just body you all the time. But anyway, so keep watch for Devin Vassell, how he ends the season. As Matt noted during pre-recording here, he's like, please make sure he stays consistent, and I think that's huge. Yeah, he stays consistent, and for the most part, for the last month-ish games, he has been. So there's that. So they breathe a sigh of relief too. But gotta keep an eye on Devin Vassell. The other guy, keep an eye on for the remaining games is Chris Paul. One, because could this be the last few games we see a Hall of Fame bound point guard in a Spurs uniform? And I think that's something to note. And also, if he shows signs that he's gonna come back, because again, that throws a wrench in that guard depth there. Because this season, Matt, he made it very clear he came to San Antonio to get minutes, to get a starter role, and the Spurs have honored that. But with Castle's emergence, does that change if Chris Paul decides to stay? I think I think if he's going to come back, Matt, he's going to have to take a bench role, right? I mean, that's it. And if he decides to come back, because you cannot bury Castle on the bench. And I'm not saying bury him, but Castle's earned and he's proven that he is starter quality, starter material. The numbers show that the offense and defense flows better with Castle. No knock on CP3, but he's getting long in the tooth now. But if he decides to leave, I think that's kind of one of those good things, I guess, because then, Castle and then Wesley can get some minutes. But if he stays, now you got to convince Paul, you got to come off the bench. I don't know if he's ready for that. He made it very clear he's not ready for that. He didn't like his role in Golden State. That's why he came to San Antonio. So what do you think about the whole Chris Paul situation?
I think, and honestly, to your point, with his role with the Warriors, I think Steve Kerr said it best on Sunday. They actually asked him if Chris Paul was going to play next season or what he thought about that. And Steve was like, well, yeah, he's going to play. I don't know. I haven't talked to him, but I know he's going to play because, from the beginning, like you mentioned, his motive has been clear. He wanted to play basketball. He wanted to get real minutes. before, he chose to leave a contending team in Golden State or, Phoenix, because he wanted to get minutes and actually, play basketball, even if it was for a team that was fresh off 22 win seasons. And so he's definitely gotten his chance to do that this season. He's put a lot of effort into, being a mentor, being that locker room leader for this young team, for Victor and De'Aaron and Steph. I think he is largely to thank for how well Stephon Castle has adapted. A lot of that credit goes to Castle himself for, just the presence he brings and his how stoic he is. But Chris Paul definitely had a hand in that. And so I think I've really enjoyed watching him and watching what he does with this team. But at the same time, I mean, you're right. Like, we've even started to see it towards the back half of the season that Castle is surpassing him, outplaying him, being more consistent. And I think that is definitely going to continue if Castle's trajectory goes the way it's intended to. And you're no longer going to have any justification to put Chris Paul in the starting lineup besides the fact that he's earned it seniority-wise. But I don't think that, that's where the Spurs are going to want to put their – I think they're going to want to value, the best players out there at all times. And so you would have to convince him to take that back role.
And if this is a rebuild, you're going to rebuild with the younger pieces.
Absolutely.
Because of longevity and long term, who's going to be with the rebuild longer, Paul or Cass? Makes sense, still Cass.
Right.
So yeah, and Chris Paul, if he does come back, I mean, I don't think there is in the NBA anymore. I remember the days there used to be, but there used to be a defined player coach role. Maybe he can come and just, you see him, Matt. You see him in the bench. Sometimes he doesn't sit with the guys. He sits with the coaching staff. I don't know if you caught that. Next game, keep an eye on Chris Paul. During timeouts or when he's subbed out, he'll sit with the coaching staff. So I don't know if he's showing his cards a bit, like he's interested in that role or interested in that as the next step in his basketball career. But we would better spot to get a launching pad than in San Antonio. Just, hey, Chris Paul, talk to Ime Udoka, talk to Will Hardy, talk to several other people, that have been in the Spurs.
Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah, there you go. Not Tyler Jenkins, everybody has aggro brewery. It's Taylor. And then who else is another former player? Oh, Monty Williams. Ask Monty Williams. So there's that role for him. But something tells me that you're mentioning Chris Paul. I mean, Steve Kerr saying that Chris Paul will be back. Something tells me that I don't know if Chris Paul feels like he's ready to go to the bench.
Yeah, I would agree.
I could see him latching on maybe. Utah, Washington, kind of those rebuilding teams, very similar to the Spurs. Because anywhere else he goes, he's like, you're going to get a second off the bench. Not Houston, not Golden State, not Denver, unless he's willing to do that. Look, Westbrook swallowed the pill, and he's coming off the bench, and he's doing pretty good for Denver right now in a secondary role. So maybe Chris Paul needs to just come to a realization that that's where he is in his career if he wants to continue playing ball. But look, and you can't even look at LeBron because LeBron is just an anomaly, and it's a freak of nature. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, what happens with Chris Paul's future in San Antonio. And if it's over, well, then Spurs fans soak in the last few times you're going to see a Hall of Fame guard, Hall of Fame player, story, in the Spurs uniform before he goes to the Naismith Hall of Fame. But Chris Paul is definitely somebody you want to watch for these remaining games. So there are thoughts about why you should be tuning into the final Spurs games. What about you? Are there any other players or just things out there that you want to talk about and why you might be tuning in? Is it Mitch Johnson and his coaching future? See how he handles the team to wrap up the season? Is something else? Let us know. You let Matt know on X at MattGZMan. Let me know by following the Locked On Spurs YouTube page and leaving a comment. We'll read it on a future episode. And the future is now, Matt. The future is now. That's what we're going to do next. We're going to read some Locked On Spurs fan comments, see what you guys are talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page in just a few minutes. But first, I want to talk to you about Monarch Money.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining online, shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Money Monarch isn't just a budget app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop managing all your money and you start building wealth. Look, you get surprising insights. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Easy collaboration, managing money with your partner smoother than ever. You can track shared or personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress, all in one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Right now, you want to take control of your finances with Money Monarch. Use code LOCKEDNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDNBA for half off your first year.
What's up, guys? This is KG Tang, voice of Sanami Shinizugawa and Demon Slayer, and you're watching Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with the projected number 1 pick in this summer's draft, Matt Guzman out of Missouri. He also writes for Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow him on X and MattGZMAN. I always wondered without the X. You remember a few years ago where that guy found a loophole in the draft and being drafted?
Oh, I do. It was viral on social media.
His name went in the hat. He showed like scouts or NBA teams that really thought that he was a legit player and they were sending him information. That is weird, man. But
I can't imagine the Spurs would take too kindly if they saw my name pop up in their draft portal.
Let's see. We need a big Matt Guzman. Maybe here. Click guard. Here we go, Matt Guzman. But make sure to follow Matt on X at MattGZMAN and also check out his stuff on Spurs on Sports Illustrated. More on that later. Hey, we talked about it a little while ago about Spurs fan comments. We're at that moment now. We're going to look at the Locked On Spurs fan page, or YouTube page, I should say, and pick out a couple comments now. One just blew our mind during the break, and we'll save that one for last. But let's go ahead and talk about the Chris Paul comment. So perfect segue, Matt. We talked about Chris Paul in the last segment. We're going to continue talking about him right now. This is from Colin1818. He says, quote, Chris Paul as a reserve and the leader of our second unit is an absolute win. I just don't know if he's interested in the job. Thank you for that comment, Colin1818. What do you think about that? I mean, we just talked about it. I think he would thrive in a secondary unit. What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, you already have Keldon Johnson. We're talking about Devin Vassell potentially being put there. There's a lot of options that could make up that bench unit. And I think Chris Paul would be a great fit for it. He's proven that he can lead and he can be a facilitator for just about any 4 guys that you put him next to. But the second part of that comment is about as real as it gets. It comes down to whether or not he's willing to accept a role like that. Did he love San Antonio the way he mentioned loving it? Did he enjoy his time here? Does he want to be here? And if so, then he's probably going to have to take that reality check and realize, I'm still really, really good. I still bring so much value to this team. I just can't be a starter anymore, and if that's the case, then I think he would thrive in that role. But, a lot just depends on where he feels he is in his personal journey with basketball.
And credit to him. He has not had an injury game. He's played 74 games. He started off 74 games. No injury, no nothing. He's been pretty good. So he's showing that he's in good health. Remember in the seasons past, it's an ankle, it's a thigh, it's a knee, and he's out. He's been kind of an Iron Man for the Spurs this season. And you talk about value off the bench. This is what he's been giving the Spurs this season, again, ahead of last night's Orlando game, so the numbers might be a little skewed a bit. But 8.7 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 7.6 assists in 28 minutes, just 1.5 turnovers. And he's also keeping it clean, too, 1.8 fouls. So he's definitely effective on that court. And, look at other stuff here, 42% shooting this season. What else we got here? He's taken about 4 3-point attempts. He's made about 2 for 38%. So he brings value, and that's what he's done so far this season. If you can get that off the bench, I think that'd be great. And also just the intangibles, his know-how, his IQ, his presence, his ability to just wreak havoc on, teams, where they're knowing their plays, calling it out and everything, getting guys set up. I think is a perfect win. We seen him in the post-game press conferences. He's just too competitive. And I don't know if his competitive juices will be there or he'll be like, you know what? I'm going to come off the bench.
I agree. Yeah. And I thought you were going to bring up the smoothie he brought in the other day, because he was really enthralled with his smoothie. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, he has that innate desire to play basketball at the end of the day. And, he'd get to in San Antonio, maybe not where he likes to, but, that could be a deciding factor for him because when he came to San Antonio was to play. So if that's elsewhere for him now, I think that's where he's going to lean.
So be it. All right. Next is an interesting comment. I say interesting because Matt was like, what? Like when I read on the comment before we came back from the break. But here we go, everybody. This is from Connor McLeod, 1490. Here we go, Matt. And watchers and listeners. I don't know why people are so high on Castle. The guy is inefficient and hogs the ball with zero remorse. Thank you, Connor McLeod, for that. There is only one Connor McLeod, but that's in the movies. We might have to get that sword, Connor, if you know what I mean, and put an end to this comment here. This is the first time I've seen this, a pushback on Castle and what he does on the court, and I never heard hogs the ball before in describing Castle. Inefficient. I mean, if he is, that's just rookie stuff. I don't think he's intentionally trying to be inefficient here. And you've heard Mitch Johnson say that sometimes they turn the keys to the car to Castle and he just crashes it. I think that's just rookie stuff that he goes through. He's only going to get better. There's a lot of reasons why you should be high on Castle, Connor McLeod. Are you out of your mind? What do you have to say about this?
Well, I was just looking at the stats. I mean, if you added one more assist per game to his total, he'd be second. He'd be second in rookies. I don't think he's a ball hog. I think that I think he's about as far from it as you can get.
This season's giving you about 4 assists a game.
Exactly. Like he's doing everything he's been asked to do. I think a lot of the pushback that I've seen, at least, is that people think that it's simply because he's being used very much. His usage percentage is extremely high, and it makes sense now that Victor and De'Aaron are out. But I don't think that's not a knock on him. They're using him because he's good, because he's proven to be a consistent scorer. He's proven to be a great on-ball defender, help defender. And so I don't think there's any reason that Connor should be so worked up about Castle. I really don't. I don't see it.
And another reason why I don't think he's a ball hog at all is because when he has the main guy on the court, Victor Wembanyama, he knows to find him. He assists Victor more on the court than anybody else does when Castle's on the court. If Keldon's there, if Jeremy's there, if Vassell, whoever it is, but if Victor's on the court with him, he knows how to target him.
Right.
He's assisted him.
Together, so
Area 51. 51. Thank you. He's assisted him about 36 times this season before Wemby was shut down. That was the most for Steph Castle there. Yeah, I don't think he's and again, if he is inefficient, I'm chalking that up just him being a rookie. And I think that's what it is.
Right.
But as far as efficiency is concerned, let me pull up some of the shooting numbers here. Unless you have them there, Matt. But I mean,
I didn't have them. I know that was, the leading concern, even before they drafted him, was whether or not his jump shot, his 3-point shot. And he's not really up there. Like he's not a pure shooter by any means, but like you mentioned, it's his first season. He's still learning and figuring that part out.
His effective field goal percentage is 43%. His true shooting percentage is 48%. Okay. As far as inefficiency as well. Okay, sure. In the last 5, he's giving you about 2.6 turnovers, but he's aware of that. He even addressed it a few times, like during the season, that he turns the ball over, and he even mentioned it. He wants to clean that up, so he's fully aware of it. But again, that's just rookie stuff. Now he's doing this stuff, year 4, year 5. Then we got a problem. But I don't think he's inefficient. I think he finds he's a good facilitator. He has a good motor. He gets to the rim. He bullies his body his way to there. His shot is better. Matt, it's a lot better than I thought it would be. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it. I mean, there's little things that he has to work on, and he realizes it, but you can't expect perfection out of a rookie.
Yeah.
And I think he's outperformed and exceeded any expectation that anybody really had for him.
Quick correction, though. The true shooting percentage of 48% and effective field goal percentage of 43%, that was the last 5 games. But overall, this entire season, again, ahead of the Orlando game, effective field goal percentage 47% and true shooting percentage at 52%. So he's not horrible, but he's not terrible, but he's not great, but it's getting better, and it's a lot better than I thought it would be. So, and also too, you factor in he's not the main guy at full power. He's second to Wemby, probably again second to Fox. So those guys are going to come first, and he's still giving you these numbers. So yeah. Connor McLeod. Oh no, there's only one. Matt, I don't know how big of a nerd you are, but the whole Highlander thing, that was the whole thing. There can only be one in the Highlander movies. And the way you destroy another Highlander, if you find him, is to cut off the head. So we may have to cut off this comment here. I'm not going to cut it off. I'm going to leave it right there. We throw him to the wolves. Hey, everybody, look what he said. Look, Connor McLeod said. I'm going to read it again. I don't know why people are so high on Castle. We gave you a lot of the numbers here. Inefficient, all these inefficient, and hogs the ball with zero remorse. No, he's a great teammate. He's a really, really good teammate.
I think you should ask Castle, or you should read the comment to Castle and see what he has to say about it.
I know, man. He's such a good teammate. He's willing to go with the flow and get pranked on, with his car wheels being stolen.
That's
so
true.
Yeah, there's that. But
you know what? Speaking of that, maybe that's his one. The one thing that kind of still eludes him is his rookie duties. I've been told that he still hasn't really gotten on those. But I mean, if that's the worst part of your game, I don't think that anybody's complaining.
Yeah, and trust me, the Spurs don't have a problem at all with Castle's development. But hey, we appreciate that comment. Nevertheless, Connor McLeod, maybe you should go look for if there's somebody else out there, have a battle with that guy. Get yourself distracted out there, Connor. And go yourself have a Highlander battle because Castle is just fine. All right, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the final games of the Spurs season? Or what are you going to be watching for if you're tuning in still? Is it player development? Is it coaching? Which John says, is it something else? Let Matt know on X at MattGZMAN. And again, follow the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Matt, before I let you go, what's going on at Spurs on Sports Illustrated?
Same old. I got that piece out about the basketball sanctuary the other day, so that was a good one. I guess, the next thing that I'm looking forward to, the Austin Spurs start the playoffs on Thursday.
Yes.
They're hoping to get to that game and check it out, but I've got an advance. Spoke with Harrison and David Duke Jr., Riley Minix a little bit too. I spoke to all of them after an Austin Spurs game a couple weeks back. Spoke to Coach and been asking Mitch Johnson and Keldon Johnson about it, so I'm hoping to do a nice little feature just to kind of the benefit that the G League provides.
Yeah, and congratulations, Austin Spurs. The second best record in the Western Conference. They get to host the semifinals game this week. But I think they take the winner of Rio Grande in Texas. I think that's what it is. They got to bye basically, so they get to play, at home. So the Spurs are in the playoffs. Everybody, we got Spurs playoff action. It's here. It's true. Yeah, and speaking of which, too, thank you for bringing that up, too. Yeah. Look forward to an episode this week here on Locked On Spurs. An Austin Spurs player, I'll keep it under wraps who it is going to be joining us to be talking about the Austin Spurs playoffs, their thoughts, the experience of all of it, what to expect, and hopefully y'all can make the trip up to Cedar Park, Texas. I know it's a bit of a drive from San Antonio. I think it's still outside of Austin, right? Like you have to go through the city of Austin and still go further out to the arena. But if you can make it out there and go there, it's fun. I've been out there a couple of times. Matt, this is how old I am. I've been there when they were the Austin Toros. So.
Oh, I do. They rebrand as the Austin Toros sometimes. I've seen it.
Yeah. No, back when it was still the Bull, they had the Bull as their logo.
Yeah.
And I think with ATX now, I think they have. But nevertheless, if you can go out there. But again, congratulations to the Austin Spurs. Going to the playoffs, or in the playoffs, I should say, and good luck to them, whoever they draw. So keep an eye on that for a future episode of Locked On Spurs this week. Matt, again, we appreciate you for stopping by, your busy schedule, and hopefully, if we don't meet up at a Spurs game soon, but, I don't get texts from you like, this is bad. Like, if I get that text from you, then I know I should not look at the score. But other than that, make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. And we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available where we get podcasts. Spotify, iTunes, what do you got? Kinfi's Plus app. Yeah, YouTube. There's so many other places you can go. Also, the Locked On Spurs newsletter. It's in the description below on YouTube. Click on that link. Subscribe right now. Hits your email inbox every single day. So for Matt Guzman, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.